What's up, you guys? The first ever Fightful Feast. Sean Ross Sapp, Jimmy Van, you might know him. But you definitely know Chris Van Vliet joining us.
And what a feast this is.
It is a feast.
This is. My favorite food's here.
There you go.
Pizza,
That's what you wanted, man.
Chicken.
Yeah. Specifically requested pizza, and Jimmy's like, well, what do you want, Sean? I didn't know that this fed, like, a small army.
The pizza's almost as large as the table itself.
Yeah. We could have just propped up the pizza box on my tripod and kind of like gathered around
Seriously.
that and had a good time. But you're here. We're in Las Vegas, StarCast, Double or Nothing. Not to date this too much, but Chris, you're here gaining interviews. You do some of the best in the business, I think.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So I've done a bunch so far this weekend. I had Ryback yesterday, MJF, Joey Janela, TJP, and trying to get some more. But this weekend's kind of like WrestleMania, where everyone is like available to do them,
Sure,
but also not available at all to do them.
Yeah, that's what I was telling him. I was like, well, everybody's there, but scheduling can be very, very tough.
It's the best and worst weekend to try to even make something like this happen.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we were all able to make this happen.
Absolutely. I contacted you like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I knew Chris Van Vliet's going to be in demand, probably. And the reason I wanted to meet you is because we're from the same area.
Yeah.
We were talking via email before this. We've gone to the same independent shows, the same independent promoters. I was throwing wrestling names at you that are not, I don't want to disrespect them, but they're not famous. And you knew them.
Of course.
I mentioned like JQ Public and Notorious TID, and you knew those guys?
Yep.
So I was like, I have to talk to this guy. You know what I mean?
I learned these names because he has footage of them from when he promoted, and we go back, we call some of their matches, and we put it up on our paywall. Yeah. So I'm learning of some of these guys. Like, I found out who El Tornado was.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge fan of him. Like, I found his dark matches in WWE.
Do you remember him? El Tornado?
I don't
He was
remember.
good.
No.
Mark Bartolucci, right?
He's got some good stuff.
Yeah.
But there was, like, Bobby Roode, Eric Young, the usual suspects
of course.
in that area. Angelina Love. Mm-hmm. And then there were guys like Mikey Whipwreck and Nova that you brought up as well. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like when we were talking off the air that's kind of around the same time, maybe a little bit before, that you were really getting interested in wrestling.
I mean, I'm a lifelong fan, but I really got into it like 98, 99, Attitude Era.
Right.
And my parents hated it.
Yeah.
Hated it. Like, my dad, I would watch it in the basement, and my dad would come down and stand in front of the TV and be like, you're not watching this.
Really?
So then I had to get to a point where, like, and we've all done this trick before, where you have the last channel button.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
So I'd, like, put it on, like, the basketball game or hockey game or something. And then as soon as I heard someone walking down the stairs, I'd quickly flick the channel and be like, oh, yeah, the Leafs are losing.
The 11 p.m. Nitro replay was my saving grace for that, because my parents went to bed. I wasn't supposed to be watching it. I would turn it down.
You were one of those kids that had a TV in their room? Wow.
No kidding. Black and white TV.
Spoiled.
Still.
It was a little black and white TV,
Wow.
but
You still have that in Ewing, Kentucky now?
it ain't much better. A flat screen, black and white. I changed the settings just to take me back.
I specifically remember my dad calling it pornography.
Wow.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Was it because of the Ron Panty era?
It was, for sure, 98, 99, like
Yeah.
Sable coming out and,
Yeah.
the handprints on her boobs. And,
Uh-huh.
and I get it. And it got slightly better, but I can understand why parents don't love it. And maybe that's what made me like it even more.
Might have been.
Did they ever come around now that you're doing so well?
I think they accept it now. My parents won't watch matches with me or certainly go to matches with me. But I kind of, behind my parents' back, was in a backyard wrestling federation.
No way.
Yeah, I would pack my bag with like knee pads and like all my wrestling gear and be like, I'm going to the gym. And then one day my mom like opened up the bag and was like, you don't need knee pads to go to a gym. And I'm like, yep. Chris Sharp is a backyard wrestler. That was my name.
That was your name, Chris Sharp?
Chris Sharp.
Were you doing that in Pickering, Ontario, Canada?
I was doing that in Pickering, Ontario, Canada, in my friend Greg's backyard.
What was your finish?
It was so ridiculous.
I got to hear it.
I did a swanton bomb that was set up by That's Incredible.
Okay.
Twisting Tombstone.
Okay.
Which, when you're 16, 17 years old, you shouldn't be...
The guy's already, you can pin him already.
You shouldn't be doing tombstones anyway.
So back then, I remember,
stupid.
because Jerry Lynn did the cradle pile driver, occasionally somebody else in ECW would always just add the cradle to, like, the tombstone. Did you ever have to modify it, make it your own, or were you just, like,
I was just, like...
rocking with this?
Glad I wasn't breaking anybody's neck.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it was... We were on Jono-Vision. Do you remember that show? was a,
Yes, I do.
a CBC talk show.
Yes,
A
yes.
national show. I'm 17 years old.
Yes.
I have frosted blonde tips. And I was on there talking about my backyard wrestling federation, the HCW.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Did you want to be a wrestler?
I did. I wanted to be a wrestler, but that was my dream.
Until when?
I went to wrestling school when I was 20.
What school did you go to?
I went to Squared Circle in Toronto.
Yeah,
Angelina
yeah.
Love was there
Oh,
at the
nice.
time.
My
Tracy
God,
Brooks was
I
there at
cannot
the time.
believe this. We know all the same people.
Do you remember James Champagne?
Yes, and who was the trainer?
El Fuego, Rob Fuego.
Yes.
He was the main trainer.
Yes.
But Chris Chambers and Ash, or
Yes.
Ashley Six, as people might know him.
And Chris Chambers has a promotion in Toronto now.
Yep.
Called Super Kick, I think.
And he's crushing it.
Yes,
So
yes.
I was there with them.
How do I not know you?
That's a great
we
question.
know a lot of the same people.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So I was going there for a couple months, and I was at Wilfrid Laurier University studying communications at the time, and it was like about an hour drive to go to wrestling school. And it's Tuesday night, Thursday night, all day Saturday and Sunday.
Right.
And it was $250 a month.
Right.
And when you were in college, $250 buys a lot of beer.
Yeah.
Like a lot of beer. Plus all that driving and stuff.
Yeah.
And when you're in college, wrestling school is fun,
Yeah.
but also like I was having fun drinking and going out and having all kinds of fun in school.
Yeah.
I met a guy. I met a guy who was at Waterloo University, which was just down the street from where I was going to school at Laurier. And he goes, "There's a wrestler guy on my floor. You should talk to him." So I went to like some party at their dorm. It ended up being Cody Steele, who became Cody Deaner.
I also booked him when he was starting out.
Cody Steele, and he had like this edge gimmick at the time almost. And he was going to some wrestling show that weekend, and I'm like, "Can I come with you? Can I come?" And he's like, "The car's full, man. Sorry."
No way.
Because he was going with like fellow wrestlers, and here I was at this like crazy
He
fan.
no-sold you.
Oh, he no-sold me.
Have you interviewed him since?
No.
Good.
I
No.
I mean, we interviewed him a few weeks
I love
ago.
Cody.
but-
He's
yeah,
great.
He's all right.
Such a good guy.
Yeah, he is.
No, it was just he was like, no, like I'm riding with wrestlers. You can't just come as a fan. And I think he probably wouldn't even remember this.
So I was talking to, I think it was Kevin Thorne, about how like my childhood was crushed when I got a text from Gangrel that said LMAO with a smiley emoji. I was like, what, man? And Kevin Thorne was like, you know who's a bad one? Bob Holly. Bob Holly is a habitual emoji sender. And I went back through my DMs, and one time Bob Holly like called me out on a story. He's like, "Shitty story, Sean." And then I was like, "Okay, I'll run a correction." He's like, "Thanks, motherfucker," with a smiley face. But it wasn't just a smiley
Like that he
face.
texts with an accent.
Yeah, and it had the rosy cheeks on it.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
Wow.
Like he is a habitual emoji sender. So you get these guys like Gangrel and Hardcore Holly. These guys are these brutes, and they're softies. They're really nice guys. How often do you encounter that? Because I mean, oftentimes you're traveling to these people's homes. You're in their environment.
Yeah, and that's actually a fairly recent thing. I was usually just getting wrestlers when they came to town to promote something.
Sure.
Then I was like, you know what? If I can go out of my way and get one of these interviews and it'll, be viewed by a lot of people, why not?
Right.
Everyone's nice.
Yeah.
Honestly, everyone in this industry is so nice because for the most part, most of us start out as fans. There's definitely we're in a completely new era of media now, and it's interesting when you walk up with just a small camera and like a microphone attached to it or something like that. It doesn't have the same cachet as a big TV camera that's on your shoulder, right? And that stigma's starting to slowly go away.
Yeah.
Like,
I think a lot of guys get it now. I think a lot of them do, right?
yeah, but that's the thing. Like, I think that if someone introduces me as a YouTuber, it's like, oh, that's a nice kid. That's great.
Yeah.
But then when I say, actually, I'm a journalist, I host a TV show in Florida, and I have this YouTube channel with a bunch of subscribers, it's like, oh, really? And who have you interviewed recently? I'm like, oh, The Rock, John Cena, Cody Rhodes,
Couple people.
Tony Khan. Like, oh, wow.
Then they take you seriously.
Then they take you seriously.
Right.
Or, in the best case scenario, they've seen one of your interviews.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you're like, well, now I'm in.
Right.
And now it's getting to the point where it's hard to find people who haven't seen your interviews. I mean,
That's such a blessing. Yeah.
There are stuff, and I mean, there are several people that we've interviewed that other outlets have interviewed that it doesn't pick up the same interest via audio as it does when you're sitting there right next to the person with a different background. I saw you mention that about the Justin Roberts interview. You were like, I like this environment.
Yeah.
I like this. How much does that play a role in
I think
the
too many
uniqueness?
people in the wrestling world that aren't wrestlers are trying to put themselves over. And if you're a wrestler, that makes perfect sense. If you're a YouTuber or a podcast person, let the content put you over.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to put a big banner up behind me telling everyone who I am. It's like the content should speak volumes.
Yeah.
And if you happen to like me from there, that's fantastic. I didn't go into this idea of being like, I'm going to be a YouTuber.
Yeah.
I went into it because I liked interviewing wrestlers.
Right.
I actually was interviewing wrestlers because they'd be coming to town, promoting Raw, SmackDown, whatever.
Right.
And I would do an interview with them with the TV station. We'd air 20 seconds of a soundbite, which is what you do in TV. But then we'd have 15, 20 minutes of an interview where I was asking questions I wanted to legitimately know the answer to. And I'm like, well, no one's going to see this now.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to throw it on my YouTube channel, which had like 4 subscribers at the time.
Right.
And then people just started watching it very, very slowly.
Yeah.
It was actually an interview with The Miz in 2011. He was throwing out the first pitch at the Cleveland Indians game. CM Punk had just dropped the pipe bomb. And Miz said that it was the most exciting time to be a wrestling fan since the Attitude Era. Like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. Threw it up on my YouTube channel. Didn't think anything more of it. Woke up the next day, there was 6,000 views on it.
That's
like,
phenomenal.
one of the websites picked it up.
Right.
The next day I woke up and it had 36,000 views. I'm like, oh, man. I realized that there was something there. So just anytime wrestlers came to town, I would do an interview. And now in the last year and a half, I've really been...
It's really taken off.
Yeah, well, it's because I've been putting the work in.
Yeah.
You know, there's a phrase I say a lot, and it's really defined my life, that vague goals get vague results.
Yeah.
Which means specific goals get specific results. So if you're going to say, I want to grow my YouTube channel, well, if you get one more subscriber, you've grown your YouTube channel. So I set out with a very specific goal. Last year, I wanted to do 40 wrestling interviews and hit 100,000 subscribers, which I hit in August. This year, I said I want to do 50 wrestling interviews and 200,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I'm up to like 32 interviews, and it's May.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm at 150,000, and once again, it's May. So, like, I'm working towards that specific goal.
Right. How did you go from I want to be a pro wrestler in Pickering, Ontario, Canada, to a journalist in, where are you at in Florida?
I'm in Miami.
In Miami, to a journalist in Miami. How did that happen?
So when I was in college, I kind of had this epiphany one day in my senior year. I woke up and I went, oh my God, when we graduate at the end of the year, like, I have to go enter the real world.
Yeah.
Like, and there's like nothing prepares you for that. Right now, I'm like waking up when I feel like waking up, drinking beer every day, and going to class if I want to. You know, and college is great, by the way.
I gotta admit, I don't see you being that guy.
Look,
you don't
seem
come
so
off
clean cut.
Yeah,
Like,
you don't come off like the beer-filled party, not going to class guy. You're like, I'm going to be there at 9:00 on the dot for this class.
Yeah,
today.
I was. I mean, I am now, but at the time, it's like, man, 10 o'clock classes were early in
Yeah.
Like,
that was the most important thing I learned from freshman years. Don't take the 8 a.m. class.
Never. So I had this epiphany that at the end of the year, I was going to have to go work for the next 40, 50 years of my life. And I was already like chasing after, like, I love my broadcasting class. In high school, I had a communications class where we did television. And I loved that kind of stuff. So I was like, well, if I'm going to have to work for the rest of my life, at least I want to do something I don't hate. Like, loving it would be amazing, but the bare minimum is I don't want to hate my job.
Right.
And we all have friends like that who absolutely hate Sundays because Monday's the next day.
Yeah.
So I reached out to every radio station in town and every TV station in town and said, hey, here's who I am. I'm super passionate about broadcasting. I just want to come in and see how it's done in the real world. And there was a Rogers Community Television.
Community 10.
And everybody there is a volunteer, from running the cameras to VTR to being a floor director to everything. So I was in there, like, doing some sort of stuff behind the scenes. A TV station said, yeah, you can be on our street team, hand out, like, stickers at events and stuff like that. And then 570 News, a radio station that was affiliated with 680 News, the big radio station in Toronto, said, well, we don't take on volunteers, but how would you like a job?
Wow, I'm like, that's fantastic.
Okay. They're like, you'll be a board operator. You push the buttons on the board. It only pays $8 an hour. I'm like, well, it's $8 more than I thought I was going to be making. So here I am in college. I already have 2 volunteer jobs and a paying job for $8 an hour. From there, I was like, I got to line up an internship. I basically begged my way into getting an internship in Peterborough, Ontario, Chex TV.
Home of Bobby Roode.
Oh, okay.
That's right. Home of Bobby Roode.
Yeah.
I emailed them and I said, I'm interested in coming by for an interview. I'm going to be in Peterborough next week. It's spring break for me. Which was a total lie. I wasn't going to actually be in Peterborough because nobody goes there on purpose. Nothing wrong with Peterborough. It's just, it was an hour drive.
They drive through it to get somewhere else.
Yeah,
basically,
so like
on the
cottage
401.
country. Yeah,
that's right.
So he's like, well, if you're going to be here next Thursday, you might as well come by. See you at 10. And he said, we don't take on interns that aren't affiliated with school program, but your resume seems like you're a real go-getter. I'd love to bring you on as an intern. And I kind of I talked my way into that internship. And when I was an intern there, 2 weeks in, I was following reporters and watching them report. And then 2 weeks in, my assignment planner said, here's your story for the day. And I said, oh, cool. Which reporter am I going out with? He goes, you're going out with Terry, but this is your story today. You're going to be on the 6 o'clock news.
Wow.
And it was my 22nd birthday. That was May 19th, 2005. I was on TV for the first time. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And I just kept chasing after things. I kind of talked my way into an interview in Vancouver to host a show called 969 on MTV2 in Canada. Same thing. I was like, I'm going to be in Vancouver next week. You should have me in for an interview. And Vancouver's a 5-hour flight.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, if you're going to be here, and that's how I got that job. So it was Peterborough to Vancouver to Toronto, then into Cleveland, and now Miami. Just, all driven by the idea of I don't want to hate my job.
Right. Are you saying you LeBron James it? You left Cleveland for Miami? You did. They can't hold on to anybody.
It was a straight-up trade because LeBron came back to Cleveland, and I went to Miami.
You were one of the draft picks.
That's right.
It was 1-for-1.
Yeah. I don't know who got the better end of the deal.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question. So when you were doing the interview with Justin Roberts, one thing I found interesting, and I don't want to necessarily put you on the spot, but you said that your dream was work for WWE. I have my own story, which maybe I'll tell you off the air. But your dream was to work for WWE, and then you listened to his book.
Yeah.
Has your opinion changed?
Yeah, for sure. And we didn't really get into it a lot in the interview with Justin.
Yeah.
But, Justin talks about how you're, super micromanaged in WWE. And, I'm sure lots of people have different stories about WWE, but I just interviewed Dasha Fuentes last week, who is bubbling over with personality, and you know her on TV as the Dasha bot. Super robotic and flat with her questions. And I'm like, if they could turn someone like that, she has more personality than anyone I've ever met.
Right.
If they could turn someone like that into, an emotionless interviewer, what's this whole process?
That was the talk of our group chat. On this, we were like, what? How was that Dasha? We couldn't quite understand it.
She's the best.
Yeah, and she was phenomenal.
So I think for me, it's WWE was always the goal. First, obviously, as a wrestler. Then I wanted to be a ring announcer. I applied many, many times.
Really?
This was when I was still living in Canada. And I remember getting an email back from them, and they went, do you have a visa to work here? And I'm like, no, but I can get one, which is, you can't just get a visa like that. It's quite a lot of process, a long process. So his opinion and his experience did change things for me a little bit. And it's unfortunate that a lot of people leave WWE and don't have great things to say about it.
Yep, and I think a lot of people lose their passion for wrestling.
Yeah.
Right? And again, I don't want to disrespect WWE.
No, me neither.
A lot of people love WWE.
And I'm a giant WWE fan.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. But you know Arda Ocal.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah, Kyle Edwards.
Yeah. And for anybody that doesn't know, so in the Toronto media scene, Renee Young, Maura Ronaldo, Arda Ocal, who was Kyle Edwards, Chris Van Vliet, all from the same local area.
Yeah, and Jimmy Corderas was on that show,
and Jimmy Corderas, too. And so Renee now is in WWE, and in Toronto, she was almost becoming iconic.
Yes.
And it seemed like it was a matter of time before she went there.
I finally got it open. Jeez, that was a wrestling match in itself. Man.
But with Arda, he works for Madison Square Garden now.
Yeah,
right?
And he's doing a lot of live event gaming stuff.
Right.
Yeah, it was actually, I had a bunch of conversations with Arda, because I knew him in Toronto. And he was like, look, man, you've always talked about WWE. You should finally just reach out to them and have your own experience with them.
Right.
So, I don't know. I'm
you understand that you're the prototype of what they go after, right?
Yeah. I was looking at that and I was like, man, the struggle continues.
Jeez. Yes, I've heard that.
Yeah, they will come calling if that's your interest.
I don't know.
But have they? Have any companies? Because, we've seen people who do something at least similar to you, like Alicia Atout, she does Ambi, and she's been on Impact and AEW.
I think Alicia really chased after that, though.
Yeah.
And I don't know her that well, even though she is also from the same Toronto circle.
Yep.
But I think Alicia really chased after those opportunities. I've chatted with WWE. They just don't have anything available right now.
Right.
I would ideally like to be in the Sam Roberts, Rosenberg type of position.
Okay.
If I could be a panelist.
Getting that heat?
I don't want to get heat. Yeah,
That's the thing.
Sam's getting heat, yeah.
I'm like, man, I wonder how that would work because Sam is a bit of a heat magnet outside of WWE, but his interviews are fantastic.
They are, yeah.
And Rosenberg's were too, but they would often say things that would conjure up heat. You're not like that. I don't see you. You don't argue with people, none of that.
I always question how much of that was a work.
Oh, what?
Like when Sam Roberts is ripping Bianca Belair.
Oh, that for sure
That's
is.
gotta be.
It's got to be.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
I don't think there's anything that happens in WWE that happens without someone's approval.
Right.
So
right.
I think when he did that, it was like, let's make him a heel.
A
Why
heel
not?
commentator.
Everybody hates him already. It's
But he's got work
the
outside the
character.
company. That's what doesn't make sense.
But WWE goes, when you're within our walls,
Right.
you're our character.
Right.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I really enjoy what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
I've got a TV show. I have my own fishing company.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Tell us about that.
And then I've got the YouTube channel.
So, you might be familiar with the St. Lawrence River coming
course,
from back home.
yeah.
So I have a cottage on the St. Lawrence.
Wow, some of the
Yeah.
best smallmouth bass fishing in
Yeah.
the world.
So,
Are you inviting me up there?
I mean, if he
Wow.
jokes about it sometimes.
Yeah.
He jokes about it.
The
I have an
smallmouth
island.
fishing there is so good.
So, did your love of that come from back home,
Yes.
or because you're in Miami, obviously, where there's water?
Yeah, but I'm strictly freshwater bass fisherman.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've been fishing bass tournaments since I was 14 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you're familiar with Ontario, in the Kawartha Lakes.
Yeah.
It's like Sturgeon Lake and Scugog were some of the big ones. Cameron I fished, Rice Lake. And I was just bass fishing all throughout my, 14 till probably 22-ish, 23-ish, every single summer.
Okay,
It was
okay.
every single weekend. And my bass fishing partner was like, hey, I'm going to buy some tungsten fishing weights.
You want another beer, by the way? Oh, you're still
Yeah,
going.
I'm still working.
You're still
I'm
going.
talking too much.
Yeah. All right.
He said, I'm going to buy some new tungsten fishing weights. And for someone who doesn't know anything about fishing, if you're fishing with like a plastic craw or plastic worm, they float because they're made of plastic.
Right.
So you need something to sink them down. Usually a lead weight.
Right.
Lead's not very good for the environment.
Yeah.
Lead's also very big. Tungsten's dense and better for the environment. So he's like, I'm going to buy these tungsten fishing weights. They're really inexpensive, but I think that because they're so inexpensive, I think we could start a company. And we started running some numbers and looking at things, and next thing you know, we had a company.
Really?
And it's called Woo Tungsten. Partly because of my love of pro wrestling,
Yeah.
but also because when you catch a giant bass, you're like, woo!
So how's it doing? Is it doing well?
Yeah, it's doing great, like really well. We've grown mainly through Instagram marketing and
Awesome.
Facebook. From 0 to 130,000 followers on Instagram
amazing.
in
Awesome.
2 years. Yeah.
So explain the business. So you sell fishing supplies?
Yeah, tungsten fishing weights,
Okay, I got
which
it.
is like an accessory.
Right.
And we sell like rod wraps and lure wraps, like other things like that. But yeah, it's basically just, terminal tackle.
Do you have brick and mortar as well?
We do not.
Okay, it's all online.
It's all e-commerce.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good for you, man.
Um,
How did you feel when you were able to get Cena, who is typically off limits to online interviews?
yeah. That was a really, really special thing.
Yeah.
And the story behind that is it was actually Tyler Perry that made that interview happen.
That's amazing.
So I've interviewed Tyler Perry many, many times. He's been so incredibly kind to me.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, Tyler's really motivated me to kind of take the next step in my career.
Yeah, Tyler got us Cody Deaner.
Wow, such a good guy. But I've been... Tyler, I first did an interview with him like 5-ish years ago. And after the interview, I saw him the next day on the red carpet. This is for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the one that Sheamus is in.
Okay.
Yeah. So I saw him on the red carpet, and he knew my name, knew how to pronounce my name, knew that I wore fun socks. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what? I'm like, how do you even know how to say my name? He's like, I do research on the people that I think are good. And I'm like,
Oh, very nice.
all right. So we did our interview, and then I watched him do the rest of his interviews on the red carpet, and I followed him off. I said, Tyler, you just blew my mind. He's like, what do you mean? Why? And I'm like, how do you know about me? He's like, we'll be in touch. And I'm like,
It's fantastic.
okay. So he's casting this TV show with a TV reporter character, and he said that when I walked into the room for the interview for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, it was like the character he had written came to life. And I was like, oh my God. So my agent's like, he wants you to read for this role. It's in Atlanta in 3 weeks. It's 2 days of filming, and it's going to pay you like a substantial amount.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. She's like, he asked if it'd be okay if I gave your number to him. I'm like, yeah, that's okay, sure. And then he texted me, and my work actually wouldn't let me do it.
No way.
Wow.
Yeah, which is crazy because the TV show I was on in Cleveland was like, yeah, more, better for us. Our person's out there promoting the station.
Yeah.
Yeah, my station just wasn't that interested in it. And I'm like, how am I going to tell Tyler Perry that I'm not allowed to do his TV show?
Right.
You basically found me, and now I can't do it. One thing led to another. We still kept in touch, and I think when I saw him for it was Medea Funeral movie came out earlier this year. I finished the interview and I texted him and said, hey, thanks, you're always so kind to me. I really appreciate it. And he goes, you're so much better than just doing local news. It's like, I just see bigger things for you. And I'm like, oh, I really love my job. I'm having a good time doing it.
Yeah.
And he goes, I just think that, there's bigger things you could be doing if you want to do them. I said, well, I got this YouTube channel. And I sent him a link. He's like, oh my God, that thing's huge. He's like, would you ever want to do an interview with John Cena? And I'm like,
no.
Don't twist my arm or anything, but
I remember it distinctly. I was boarding an airplane, and I said, of course I'd want to do an interview with him. And I didn't hear back from him for 5 minutes, and then he texted me a screenshot of him texting with John Cena. And it was John going, yeah, I've seen his stuff before. I'll be in New York for WrestleMania. Tell him to reach out to me.
amazing.
Followed by Tyler going, I just gave John your number, he'll text me. And then I see a little bloop, and it's John Cena going, hey Chris, this is John, a mutual friend, had really nice things to say about you. This is my number, let's set something up in New York. And I was like, oh my God, I think this is actually going to happen.
Good for you, man.
And he goes, make sure to follow up with me. Don't feel like you're annoying me. I get forgetful sometimes.
Right.
Okay, so I followed up with him, and he's like, yep, tomorrow at this specific gym, this specific time. And that's when we did the interview. And he walks up, and he goes, I've got 10 minutes.
Right.
Okay, great. So we did the interview. About the 10-minute mark, I'm like, I want to be super respectful of your time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. He reaches into his pocket, pulls out his phone, and goes, you still got more time.
Yeah.
Wow. And then he did that again. It was like a 25-minute interview.
Yeah.
A brutally honest interview.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, as honest as we've ever seen Cena.
Ever,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, to the point, quite frankly, we don't hear him cursing a lot either.
Right.
That was a surprising aspect of that to me. And when he was, I don't remember the exact terms, but talked about turning chicken shit into chicken salad, I was like, okay, he's very aware. Whereas sometimes you think that maybe he isn't as aware. But
Yeah.
what do you attribute that to? Do you think maybe it's the time off that's led to him thinking that? What vibe did you get?
I think part of it was the fact that we both had Tyler Perry in common.
Yeah.
I think that helped. It's a friend of a friend now.
Yeah.
And I think that if Tyler was putting in that good word for me, I think that he felt like I can, A, do this interview, and B, maybe speak more openly than I normally would.
Right.
I also think that if you watch that interview again, he's looking at his career in the rearview mirror.
Agreed.
And I think that he can look back and go, I had some great times. I learned, this, and I learned this, and now I want to do this. And I felt like it was a really interesting, almost legacy interview.
It was, and
Yeah.
guys like that are often very careful about how their words will be disseminated.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want you to take anything out of context, and just so much of that was just. I was just shocked. It's a Cena that we have not seen. God damn, that we haven't seen. That we haven't seen before.
The cool thing is he texted me after and was like, and thanked me for it. I want to read this because it blew my mind that we were leaving there, and
Yeah,
Is
show
that the
it on
first
screen.
thing-
That
that's
way
the
we
first
get
thing
his
that pops
number
up on
too.
your phone?
that way we get numbers too. Yeah.
the last thing he said was, well, actually, this was pretty funny. So I got to the gym, and it was like a private gym in the middle of Manhattan. And I'm standing there, and I don't know where he is. I figured he was in, the shower or something. And he texts me and says, I'm here. Boss, I don't have much time, and I don't see you. Pun intended. So then after the interview, he said, great interview, man. Thank you for adapting to my schedule. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, you're welcome, John Cena.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we talk about schedules. How often do you travel to a place and interview falls through? Does that ever happen?
It doesn't happen often because I'm traveling somewhere with the full intention that I'm going there just to get this interview.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's driving. I live in South Florida, so Orlando's about a 3-ish hour drive away. Tampa's a 4-hour drive away. When I went to Jacksonville with Tony, it's a 5-ish hour drive away.
One way, right?
Yeah, one
And
way.
you did that just straight, just 5 hours, did the interview 5 back, just like that.
That's right.
Yeah,
Because I knew I had to get it up quickly. Yeah, and I was actually editing it in the car. This is all the stuff people don't see. Like, I think a lot of people see my interviews on YouTube and just think like, oh, this guy just hangs out with wrestlers all day. I've got a lot of other stuff going on. I just love wrestling.
Yeah.
So I'll edit the interviews as I'm driving. And like the Christian.
That's safe.
Someone else is driving, okay? I have a Tesla. It drives itself.
Sometimes it's the person you're interviewing driving you. I saw Rhino driving you.
What a nice guy.
Yeah.
He picked me up from the airport,
Another
too.
brutally honest guy.
Yes.
Who is under WWE contract, told you the amount more, well, vaguely the amount more, and basically laid out a plan, which what sounds like he wants to be the Indies' next PCO. He's like, I'm going to lose 30 pounds, I'm going to wrestle really hard for 3 years, and then I'm going to wind it down.
Wants to put people over and find new talent.
It's amazing.
Good for him.
So Rhino called me up specifically and said, I'm not renewing my WWE contract, and I want to do an interview now before word gets out otherwise. I want to get the truth out there. And he goes, I know you're the right guy to do it. I'm like,
That's outstanding.
thank you.
Yeah,
Wow.
for sure, yeah.
It was a Saturday. And I go, what's your schedule look like? He's like, oh, I'm just here at the marina, because he runs a marina now. Runs a marina. I said, what about Monday? I could fly into Detroit, I'd be there for like 6 hours, and then I would fly back that same night. And he's like, yeah, sure. So I went into work, saw the schedule, and it worked with my work schedule. I took the day off and made it happen.
Good for you, man.
Yeah, and you guys saw, he put it all out there.
Yeah, he was very, I mean, these guys in WWE who are getting these gigantic offers and still turning them down, that's kind of amazing. I mean, and he wasn't wrong. Like, right before that, the Revival news had dropped. And when we found out that info, we were just trying to fish out who JR was talking about. He said there was a $500,000 man who was in his early 30s, not on TV, and got offered $500,000 and stayed. And we were just trying to figure that out, and we got the Revival news fishing for that, and then shortly after that, the Rhino stuff drops, and it's like, man, all this money's being thrown around.
Ty Dillinger, too.
Ty Dillinger was offered a ton of money, and these guys are still passing it up. And not just that, they're going on the record about some of the issues, even when they're happy with the company. They're still going on the record about issues. It really is a time in media we haven't seen before in wrestling.
It's a fascinating time, and I don't ever go into these interviews looking for a scoop. I'm not trying to make a clickbait title. And if they say something interesting, of course I'll make my title something you'll want to click on. But I don't go into this going, all right, like...
Rhino shoots hard at the marina. Yeah.
I noticed that you don't do clips either. Because some people will want to pull the clips out. You just do one full thing.
And the reason I don't do clips, and there's all kinds of different theories on what works on YouTube and what doesn't. The reason I don't do clips is because I don't want one clip from my interview to get 200,000 views and another clip get 4,000 views.
Right.
I'm just going to throw it all out there, and you take of it what you want to take out of it.
Right.
And that's just kind of been my way of doing it. I don't want to tell you what's interesting.
Right.
I don't want to, clip 3 or 4 minutes out of it and tell you that this is more important than another 3 or 4 minutes. I want to put it all up there. I don't edit anything out.
Right.
I didn't edit out when Cody Rhodes was looking for his cell phone in our interview last week. He lost his cell phone during the interview, and we searched for it for like 2 minutes. It's humans being humans.
Yeah, for sure.
And we're all humans.
Absolutely. Yeah. What made you start putting a clip of your interview before your video intro?
That's a fantastic idea.
Is that keeping people on for the 10 seconds or whatever it is?
No, it had nothing to do with an algorithm or anything like
okay.
that. It's the TV thing. That's a tease, right?
Right.
And when I did it the first time, I actually don't remember what interview it was. I'll have to go back and check this. It was just to hook people. Because before I was starting with my logo, and then into the warm-up chat, then into the first question, and then into the conversation. This way, if I show you something in the first 10 seconds that's really interesting, you'll go, well, now I got to see why he said that.
Yeah, right.
And that's the whole reason.
Right, that's cool.
Yeah.
So what is your career objective now? Do you want to do the wrestling thing full-time? Do you want to try to make it full-time?
I think that I want to keep putting a lot more effort into the wrestling thing.
Yeah.
Because it is very rewarding.
Yep.
The more you put into it, the more you get out of it. That's
For
just,
sure.
With anything in life. I still want to host. I love hosting the show I'm on right now.
And plug it because people might not know it.
Yeah, I'm on a show called Deco Drive in Miami. We're on the Fox affiliate. And I've been able to do so many amazing things on Deco Drive. I was just interviewing Tom Cruise last summer in Paris for Mission Impossible 6 in the shadow of the Eiffel Tower.
Awesome.
I've been to the Oscars 4 times and the Grammys 5 times. I've won 4 Emmy Awards. I still love television, but I think that it'd be a little short-sighted to not realize that the medium's shifting and changing so much that if you don't have your hand in a lot of other things, you're going to get left behind. So I want to continue doing this and see where it takes me.
Now, I had said to you off the air, do you even still do the movie junkets because you don't post the videos? What was the reason? It's because you want to become more known online for the wrestling interviews?
YouTube and the internet in general are so niche-driven. So every time I posted a movie interview, even if it was incredibly interesting or if there was scoops in there for whatever movie it was, I would lose a bunch of subscribers.
No way.
Because it's all the wrestling fans going, I don't care about this.
That's why I switched to do an MMA
Right.
channel because they were getting so sick.
Isn't that interesting? Even for movies, interesting.
And I will still, on occasion, like if it's a big enough movie, like some of my most viewed interviews are Batman versus Superman or Justice League. Like those ones have well over 1 million views.
Right.
And a lot of my wrestling ones don't. So I will only make the exception for those now. But when I post a movie interview, the comments are like, this isn't a wrestling interview.
Yeah.
Wow. And those are like predominantly what people are saying.
For the first day or two until the movie people find the interview.
Right.
So it was just like, if the internet's niche driven, I'm going to go all in on wrestling.
Right.
So
Pun intended.
as we wrap up, I'm sure most people know how to find you already. If they don't, let them know.
It's just my name, at Chris Van Vliet, VanVliet. That's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and of course YouTube. I'd love it. If you've ever watched one of my videos, I'd love if you subscribe. That'd be great.
Well, we want to thank you for joining us. It was a lot of fun. Jimmy and I both admire your work. We think you do just such a great job.
Likewise.
I consider you the best in your niche in terms of one-on-one
And-
interviews. I consider you the best in the niche for sure. And I think a lot of guys, I think the reason that you're doing so well, aside from the work ethic, is because no ego. You know what I mean? You're a humble guy. I think
not about yourself.
I think that goes a
You're-
long way.
Yeah,
you know?
it's the talent.
Yeah, I always want to put them over.
Especially when Margot Robbie's hitting on you. you know,
Yeah.
but you kept your ego in check on that stuff. I respect that.
Oh.
Not interested.
Margot, who? I'll end on this. I think the biggest thing that I keep in mind is I realize nobody is clicking on one of my videos to see me talk. I am fully aware that you are there to see the guest, and that's completely okay. If you happen to subscribe because you like some of my questions, that's all right. But I think that that's a big difference. I think a lot of people, unfortunately, are out for themselves, and they're trying to make a name for themselves and put themselves over.
This is why me, as the owner of Fightful, I was behind the camera for him yesterday at Starcast.
There you go. Jimmy Van.
Well, guys, we hope you enjoyed the first Fightful Feast.
Feast!
Jimmy's going to have a lot of pizza left over.
Yes, I am.
But we hope that you enjoyed the first ever Fightful Feast. And I don't know if it'll make the cut, but hopefully he'll join us for the first Fuckful Feast. Guys, until next time, we're out.